Good afternoon, wonderful people. Welcome to the village, friends. I'm here in Kisumu, Karateng, as always. It's the middle of the day. I'm about to take off to go see a neighbor. And I want to talk with you about the experience of working with a nightmare boss. A lot of us move to diaspora for better opportunities, whatever that may be. And the nice thing about many diaspora countries is that there are plenty of laws that are designed to protect employees from all kinds of things. And sometimes that gives us the illusion that diaspora is safe when we work for other people. Unfortunately, if you work for or live in diaspora for a while, chances are you're going to run into one of these what we call bosses from hell. I had one of those experiences, and that woman terrified us. That woman terrorized us. It's unbelievable. I won't share too much details about her because unfortunately she was one of us. And as you all know, I don't like sharing stories that paint black people in bad light. That was a one-off. She's the only boss I've had from our community who was like that. So I'm going to share with you this story so you understand why when we come back to the village, we don't care about being employed. Yes, there are bosses from hell in Africa as well, but don't think that in diaspora we don't have those. People will tell you some horror stories about running into these people who are just terrible human beings. But before we unpack all that, as you know, I gotta make you jealous. Come take a look. Let me show you something incredible. Something incredible right in front of my yard. Just look at this. Just look at this beauty right here. Right in front of my yard. And it's all organic. All organic. I just wake up and right next to my door, fruits, fresh fruits. And then I'm still waiting for these ones right here. I don't know why they're taking such a long time. I've got a ton of passion fruits down here. Look at all this, friends. Just look at all these beauties right here. Oh, well, I gotta bring it closer. Let me see if I can show you all of that. But there's a ton of them right here, all over the place. It's this kind of stuff that brings us to the village, my friends. As I've always said, the village is quite polite, and the sun is just hitting right. I feel the vitamin D. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, it feels like the D is D'ing itself on my skin. So if you want to join us, friends, if you're new to my channel, I talk about all things that impact people that look like me. I talk about the process of returning to the village. I help people with construction, buying land, and all kinds of properties. And so if you need help with any of that stuff, my number is below. Reach out. I'm happy to connect you with the experts of those fields. So anyway, folks, thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing, because there are people who have stuck with us for a good while. Thank you for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, just add your name to it. But in any case, I'm just glad you're spending time with us here. So I'll give you an example of my own personal experience. This was many, many years ago when I lived in Western Pennsylvania. I was a student at a place called Indiana, which is has a state college called Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And I had a boss, an American boss, who had the propensity of hiring a lot of African immigrants. When I first went there, I didn't know why, but she loved hiring African immigrants. So here's the story. I later found out that the reason she loved hiring us, two reasons. She knew that Africans would pretty much do anything in terms of work. The average African immigrant will work their butt off. And so this woman would make us work way, way beyond. We didn't even know that this was illegal. She would make us work even odd hours and things like that. Because she knew as an African, we would always say, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. So that's number one. It was new. I didn't know any of that stuff, but she made us work. Then the worst part of it, every single morning this woman would come to work. She would spend like the first 30 minutes to 1 hour just simply berating us, telling us how stupid we are, how this and that. 1 hour being berated every single day. I actually just dreaded going to work. But I had no choice because, as immigrants, Some of us have lived in worlds where it almost feels like somebody's doing you a favor by employing you. And we were only allowed to work on campus 20 hours a week, which is barely enough to pay anything. And so, and I desperately needed a job. So I took it. In fact, when I first went, it was presented as if I was going to get a graduate assistantship that was going to help me with tuition. That was not to be. They would just take us, have us work for like 20 hours or sometimes mostly less. But it was the most stressful experience I had at the time. And that was right before I became homeless for a little while. And so this woman would come and berate us every single day. For whatever reason, she would have her own issues, and that's my suspicion. And then she would just bring it to work, saying very derogatory things about Africans. Again, I won't share too much because this is actually one of us. And I don't like things that paint black people in bad light. And this is the only person from our community that has been that terrible. The rest of the bosses I've had from our community have been just wonderful folks. So this is way, way more of an exception. I've never met anybody like her. This woman terrorized us like crazy. And also, I found out that she would hire other African Americans, white people, and all that stuff, but she would not do this with the rest of the other folks. She would only do this with immigrants. She would never do this with American citizens. In part because I suspect for American citizens who worked for her, they had a choice. If she did something, they would simply just walk away, or they would actually stand up for themselves. But African immigrants, many of us come from places where we are trained to defer to authority. And so that culture, in some ways, also allows for abuse to occur. That woman was terrible. So that's just my example. And I've had a few cases. Like one actually was not even my boss. She's actually my junior. At one of the places I worked, she was a lecturer, didn't even have a PhD, while I was a full professor. And for some reason, this is a white woman. For some reason, she always thought she was superior than me. I don't know why. I remember one time, I was sitting in my sister's funeral in Kenya, and she's busy texting me and calling me about work stuff when she knew I had just traveled to come and bury my sister. But I learned one thing, that standing up for yourself in America is absolutely critical. If you do not know how to stand up for yourself in America, your world is going to be something else. So when I discovered that power, I learned how to straighten people. So I just put them on the spot, straighten them out right away in front of everybody else, and then they leave. There is nothing they are scared of as a black person who can stand up for himself or herself. They're really scared. When you can go in their face and say, hey, I'm not going to tolerate this. Oh, and they do it in front of the rest. So when they see it, they know not to mess with you. If you don't stand up for yourself in America, you are going to go through real hell. I've also heard cases, especially people in the healthcare, where your boss, who comes from another ethnic community, would give you like real hell, give you like the worst patients, the worst shifts. And if something goes wrong, as an African or as a black person, if something goes wrong in your care, immediately that will be reported to the highest level, looking to give you as much trouble as possible. If something goes wrong amongst folks from their own ethnic communities, they do hush-hush and cover up each other. Or the healthcare profession is just a wild west when it comes to ethnic groups from different countries, people pairing and just excluding others. And so there are bosses in America that will just turn your world inside out. And coming from Africa, you don't know that until you move, because we think that the laws are there to protect us. At some point, actually, my wife got a job offer. And as soon as they found out she was pregnant, they pulled the job offer. Of course, in the US, that is highly illegal. We could have sued them. And of course, they won't tell you that they took the job offer because you're pregnant. They wouldn't do that. There are some places where women actually, if you show up to a job interview with an engagement ring, you'll not get a job. It sounds very strange, but yes, in America, things like that happen. And you ask why. Of course, they see the engagement ring and they think you're one of those people who are doing kalongolongo, and soon enough you'll be having kids and wanting to take time off, things like that. So while there are laws that can protect you, and in fact, way more than we do in Kenya, the system can help in several cases, especially when you sue them you can get justice. But even within that system, so many things go wrong. So many things go wrong, it's unbelievable. The nightmare bosses are there everywhere. Some of them do things that are just unbelievable. So, for those of you who have not been in America, just so you know, there are laws to protect folks, but stuff still happens. I'm curious to hear about your experiences. So, those who you've gone through this, share in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next. Bye.